world crowded with other opportunities, like college, other government agencies, and a tempting high-tech industry. So as with every mission, we must be professional in our approach, agile in our methods, and effective in our execution. Success rests on the shoulders of those who hold a special position of trust, our recruiters. To join the ranks of this diverse and highly motivated group of professionals, each one must be nominated by his or her wing commander, for they are the face of the Air Force to the next generation of airmen. Targeting the right recruits means being more agile than ever. So we travel the country and introduce them to the Air Force through experiential tours, innovative demonstrations, and strategic partnerships. We are utilizing the latest technology to quickly and more efficiently qualify potential recruits. And we're taking a more adaptable approach that enables us to better respond to the ever-changing needs of the Air Force. For over a decade, we have been effective at attracting the highest quality recruits in the country, with a precision that ensures that the Air Force has the right airmen with the right skill sets for the right jobs. Because the country depends on it. We are responsible for finding future pilots, engineers, and special ops, officers, and enlisted. We're responsible for tomorrow's satellite controllers, healthcare professionals, and over 130 other career fields. We're responsible for making sure that the U.S. Air Force continues to be the best educated, most advanced, most powerful, and most respected Air Force in the world.
All right, so that tells you a little bit about Air Force Recruiting Service and who we are and what we do. So here's what we do, the mission: inspire, engage, and recruit the next generation of airmen and space professionals, okay? So I just modified my mission statement all of about a couple weeks ago because if you guys were paying attention, 20 December 2019, kind of a big deal. Stood up a brand new service, United States Space Force. Pretty awesome. And for the foreseeable future, we are going to recruit for them. So as far as I'm concerned, I consider myself Air Force and Space Force Recruiting Command. Because quite honestly, just like 2019 was a big year, 1947 was a big year. We broke away from the Army Air Corps. But the first Air Force recruiting unit did not stand up till 1954. So it takes time. As you're developing a brand new service, there's a lot to figure out. So for the foreseeable future, recruiting will recruit for both the Air Force and the Space Force. Now, not just Air Force and Space Force, but total force, okay? So one Air Force, 3 components. And you saw that I was identifying the different parts of our Air Force, okay? So I don't care what capacity someone serves in. Active Guard Reserve, officer, enlisted civilian, they are all part of our team. And so what we want to do is identify talent in society and find the best match for them, full or part-time, in or out of uniform. We have an American public who's fairly unfamiliar with the military. And so when we try to recruit to an accession path, what we do is send a confusing, disjointed message. So if I go, you need to join the Air Force, or go Air National Guard, or go Air Force Reserves, go to the Academy, go ROTC, you go, okay, half the people can't even name the 4 services. If we had 5, it's down like below 1%. So we need to have opportunities. Like, this is our Air Force. Here's all the ways you can serve, full or part-time, in or out of uniform. And if we do this right, the majority of the folks joining our Air National Guard and our Air Force Reserve are from the active duty, because we want that return on our investment. When someone transitions off of active duty, we want to capture that training, education, experience in our Guard or Reserve components. And so that's what we're trying to do. And so it's a mindset shift that we're going under, where we used to have gold bar recruiters that just recruited for ROTC for that first year, and first-year lieutenants that just recruited for the Academy. We're all gathering them all together now and saying, let's recruit for the Air Force. And those lieutenants are really valuable to us because they're really close to the target demographic. And so having them engage with some of these young men and women and tell them about their experiences is very valuable. So you saw this quickly in the video, but when we're looking at people who are going to join, the vast majority are in the 17 to 21-year-old. So these are people who will either enlist in the Air Force, join the, or start the Academy, start Air Force ROTC, About 20 million. You go, all right, well, how hard is this? That's a lot of people. Okay, true. But if we apply the academic requirements, we get down to 11.3 million. And then you go, okay, are you eligible? That means, do you meet our physical standards, medical standards, moral standards in terms of any kind of crimes, no felonies, drug use, all of that? We get down to 4.4 million, which was very disheartening when I first got in this job. I'm like, seriously, 3/4 of America's youth are not qualified for military service? But that is the facts. But then we jump down from that 4.4 million to 465,000. Those are those who are qualified and propensed, okay, meaning they want to serve. So we used to consider that orange area the eligible but unpropensed. I didn't like the term unpropensed because I said, hey, that sounds like a static situation. I consider it more dynamic, okay? So they're not yet propensed because that was me. Age 17, if you had told me I was going to join the Air Force, I would have laughed. I knew nothing about the Air Force. I had never flown in a commercial airplane at age 17, okay? So no idea. It wasn't until I had that exposure and I had that interaction and I learned about the Air Force and all the opportunities that I decided to join. So that's what we want to go after, is the eligible but not yet propensed. Okay, so we do this once a year. We have this meeting, the Joint Recruiter Commander Conference. My team likes to call it the JERC because JRCC kind of spells that. But what we do is we bring together the recruiting commanders from all the different services. And they bring in people who do all these studies, and they brief all kinds of really good information. But the information makes you realize why this is getting harder and harder to do in terms of having people join the military. In 2018, fiscal year 2018, the Army missed goal. Okay, this was a significant emotional event. They were supposed to bring in about 76,000 and brought in about 70,000. So lots and lots of attention on recruiting. So what's some of the why? Well, a lot of it's a lack of familiarity. So when they talked to, back in 1990, when you go, how many young men and women have talked to a military recruiter? 54%. 2018, 35%. So a pretty dramatic drop. How many within a year of graduating high school start college? Well, back in 1980, it was 49%. More recently, 2018, 70%. One of the questions I asked as soon as I saw this slide is, I said, all right, what are the completion percentages? Because I would imagine those aren't, the same percentage. You've got far more going, but you probably have a lower percentage rate. And they have come back and said, yes, we're trying to get the exact numbers, but that is indeed the case. Because a lot of times people start down that path. They go, yeah, I'm going to go to college because that's the expected thing to do. But then maybe I don't want to spend the next 4 years sitting in classrooms. Or maybe, college tuition gets a little pricey. And so we find that a lot of our enlisted force come in after some college time and that they've tried it and they said, you know what, this isn't working. And a lot of them will come in and then have the Air Force pay for that degree. But more and more American youth, it's kind of the thing you do as you go to college. Okay. I talked a little bit about this, but I did not believe this statistic when they first said it. They go, all right, we polled these huge numbers of 17 to 35-year-olds and said, hey, can you name the 4 services in the DoD? This was pre-December 20th. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. 49% could name those. And if you add the Coast Guard, it goes down like 27%. I can't imagine if we said Space Force at this point. So the question is, they don't even know us, okay? They can't even name that. 34% of them don't know the basic standards that we have requirements to come in, the different rank structures, those types of things. And the one in red, which I know does not show up great, but that one was very concerning. They did this poll in 2019 and asked parents, would you recommend military service to your children? 52% would not. That's very disheartening, and a lot of it is a lack of understanding of what the military is. Okay, they know of us, and they appreciate us. They do. If someone sees you in uniform, chances are they're going to come thank you for your service. But they don't want their kids to go into the military because they assume that most people are going to get killed or have significant issues. Also, we've downsized the military pretty dramatic. In 1995, 40% of kids had a parent who served. More recently, 14%. So more and more unfamiliarity. So they went out and they said, all right, why would you join? Okay, reasons to join. Pay, money, that's good. Okay, pay for future education, good. Travel, great benefit. Help others, gain work experience, all good things. However, we don't corner the market on any of those. There's a whole bunch of companies out there that offer similar type of benefits. Okay, why are the reasons not to join? Possibility of injury, death, leaving friends, families, possibility of PTSD, interfere with college. Okay, so again, a lot of it is misperceptions. While we have people who are injured or killed, the numbers are very, very small. Okay, and we have incredible resources like Wounded Warrior Foundation, things like that, that take care of our wounded warriors, but the perception is that that's the majority of people who serve fall into that category. And why is that? Okay, if I don't actually know anyone in the military, what are my points of reference? I have the media, I have movies, right? So media tends to focus on all the bad news stories because that's what draws attention. And so they find those terrible stories and they tell those stories, and that's what people focus on. And movies, it's entertainment industry. So they can choose to be accurate or not. There's no requirement. This is no hit on Hollywood. This is just a fact. It's the entertainment industry. They can choose to be accurate in their portrayal of the military or not. That's up to them. When they are, we're very appreciative, and we actually have a public affairs office out in Hollywood to help facilitate consulting and making sure they're accurate in that portrayal. But it's their choice if they take advantage of that benefit or not. With recruiting, okay, there's some specialized requirements, if you will. So Space Force. The Space Force this is an amazing time to be part of our Air Force, right? We're standing up a brand new service. And so it's pretty incredible time to be in it. And so we're still figuring out which AFSCs and within the Air Force, which ones are going to transition into the Space Force. And when we bring new accessions, which ones are going in. So 13 Sierras are one of the ones we're looking at closely and working closely with the Space Force in terms of selection when it comes to OTS. Health professions. We have doctors, nurses, dentists. It's pretty funny. Everyone has their story for why they joined. When I got this job, I was suddenly fascinated by why people join, because that's kind of my job now, right? To teach people about it and have them join. So I was having my regular annual dental checkup, and so I asked my dentist, Dr. Captain Groves, and I'm like, hey, doc, why'd you join? And he's like, well, I grew up in Minnesota. We didn't have a lot of military around, but I was going to dental school. I was looking at pretty big student loans, and so I started Googling, and I found HPSP, which is Health Profession Scholarship Program. I'm like, oh, awesome. So you got selected? Yep. I go, so what'd your family think? And he goes, oh, my mom was actually really upset. And I said, why? She was scared that he would get deployed and he'd get killed going down range. And he goes, Mom, I'm a dentist. Like, you don't look at people's teeth on the front lines. She's like, okay, you're right. So I said, all right, now that you're in, what do you think? And he said, oh my gosh, it is fantastic. He goes, first off, I have no student loans, which all of my friends have huge student loans. He goes, but secondly, I don't face some of the ethical dilemmas they do. Because in the private practice, okay, I have a patient and their insurance will cover this, that, not this is more expensive. Kind of make some decisions there. He goes, my only focus is patient care. I said, I love it, tell all your friends. He's not gonna be my dentist much longer because he just got selected for this super awesome program. I mean, he's beyond excited with all of his opportunities in the Air Force. Chaplains, we recruit for chaplains. So chaplains are extremely important to our force. They provide that spiritual resilience. They provide incredible resources to our airmen. But recruiting for them is a little challenging because they're all different. And so they're not interchangeable, right? You have different religions, different denominations, and we want to make sure we meet the needs of all of our airmen. But we have a phenomenal chaplain recruiting team. They're in our building, and it's pretty fun, like having a little team of chaplains right there in our building. Special warfare, okay? Special warfare is one of the places where we suffer from a lack of brand awareness, I'll say. So I always ask people when it comes to the special option, what do you think? Army, Rangers, right? Navy, SEALs. Air Force, Yeah, a lot of different answers, exactly. That's one of our problems. So we identify by specialty: combat controller, pararescueman, PJ. We've got, we even change them. It used to be SAU-T, it's now SR, special reconnaissance, TAC-P. We called them battlefield airmen for a while. We got STOWs, we got crows. Oh my goodness. Like, this is not really resonating with the American public. They're not that familiar. So we're working very hard with the branding of special warfare. If anyone's seen Last Full Measure came out, we have some new commercials we're rolling out with special warfare, which Be the Calm and the Storm. I should bring that one in. That one's a pretty good one that we just did. We're working on a couple Space Force ones. STEM. STEM is of interest to us. Science, technology, engineering, math. We have a lot of partnerships that we do with different organizations that are focused on STEM and youth. Rated pilot diversity. Our leadership would like to have a pilot force that is more diverse in terms of men and women, minorities, all different races. So we've stood up a detachment, Det 1, at AFRS. For any aviators, if you see PSTM comes out periodically, and it's for any aviators that want to help with our aviation recruitment teams. We call them ARTS. So they go out and engage with youth and get people fired up and excited about being pilots. So my Det 1 does both rated diversity and youth outreach. Okay, so a little bit about us. We are 4 recruiting groups. 1 is reserve. We've recently combined as we go to this total force. Total of 32 recruiting squadrons, 3,400 personnel, but ones that are on goal, like people who have the responsibility to bring a certain number of airmen in, about 1,700. If you look at the Army number down there, I give that for reference, okay? Because what I hear very frequently is, I couldn't get a hold of my Air Force recruiter. I hear that one a lot, okay, especially on the line officer side. Or, I see the Army recruiter at the school all the time. I have never seen an Air Force recruiter. I would go, yes, and I know exactly why. We are so outnumbered. And in a lot of cases, out in many of the areas around the country, it's about 8 or 9 to 1, okay? So my 1 Air Force recruiter is up against 8 or 9 Army recruiters. And so it makes it really, really tough in terms of having that presence and visibility. And so that's why we're going to ask for your help. That's all the places where they are. We have enlisted sessions, line officers, just the different colors on there, but we're pretty much everywhere. First time I saw it, I'm like, why are we in Europe? I'm like, are we recruiting Europeans? No. Okay, there's a lot of U.S. Citizens that live abroad and dependents, whether it's DOD, DOS, just different dependents around the world. I don't have our How You Help Us. I don't think that one's on there. No. Okay, so can we go back one slide? I don't know the back button. Anyone? Thank you. Okay, so the How You Can Help. Okay, this is a big part of this, and I'll hand it off to questions here in just a minute, but how you can help. We need your help. We are so outnumbered, and we have a society that is so unfamiliar with us and who we are. So we're going to do a quick poll. How many people have gone back and talked at your high school where you graduated? Show of hands. All right, not a lot at all. I want to fix that. Oh, I saw you guys, that's good. We need your help. We want you to go out and tell your story. Okay, you are our most valuable recruiters. We have a program. Who has heard of WHERE? We Are All Recruiters. Show of hands. Far fewer, like 5. Okay, so it's a terrible acronym. It drives me a little bit crazy simply because the letters don't line up to the words. So it drives me a little bit crazy, but if you shout we and then are all recruiters, it works. Okay, so WEAR. We Are All Recruiters. Just go with me on that. But if you go, we're going to put a splash page up on airforce.com so that people can see it. But basically, you can have permissive TDY to help us with recruiting. So you can go back to your hometown and go talk at your high school. You can go talk at different STEM events. You can go engage in different things. There's one big WHERE program. So anyone on the Air Force cycling team? Show of hands. How many people knew we had an Air Force cycling team? Show of hands. Oh, that's awesome. Way more than I expected. Okay, I did not know until the big request came in for them to go use WHERE for RAGBRAI. And those of you who don't know what RAGBRAI is, it's the Register's Annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. And over a series of days, bicyclists start on the west side of Iowa, dip the back tire in the Missouri River, ride across the state of Iowa, and then you dip the front tire in Mississippi River. And so we sign the paperwork. You can have up to I don't know my expert, somewhere around 10 or 14 days, I can't remember, permissive TDY to go represent the Air Force and help with recruiting efforts. And so I went to the kickoff meeting. I had to be up at Oshkosh, so I couldn't stay for RAGBRAI because I really wanted to ride part of it. But I went for their kickoff, and it was really, really neat because they have really cool kit. You know, they look really sharp in their bicycle gear. And about 10 years ago, they kind of shifted the focus. As opposed to just completing the ride, yes, they're going to complete the ride, but they're also going to help stranded bicyclists along the way. And so they had a whole workshop on what if someone has a flat tire, what if they're having chain issues, and they were teaching the new people how to help people. And a friend of mine, he was up there in the guard unit, and he said, oh yeah, it's really awesome. He goes, I was riding it the previous year, he said, and he saw this bicyclist who was having problems. And some random bicyclist stopped to help him, and he's like, no, I'll wait for the Air Force cycling team. You know, it's like, that's awesome. So they're known for that. And so that's fantastic. On the Century Day, where there's one that's 100+ miles, you must go the long one because there's a shortcut. You can't be Air Force gear going the short term. So everyone goes the long one. And then the last day, they have a rally point a few miles from the finish line, and then they all ride in together. And everyone says it's absolutely awesome to see the team come in. But that's one of the many examples. So where we are all recruiters, if you go to Air Force recruiting up there, you'll see it up there. Or, like I said, we're going to try to get a splash page on the portal to increase awareness, because this is a great program. You can have permissive TDY and help the recruiting mission just by going and telling your story. You know, all the opportunities that became available to you, why your life is better because you decided to take this path and this journey. So with that, I am going to open up to questions, which means I think I step off stage and come back. So thank you. Carry on.
Hello, man. Well done.
Share the transition there.
Me either. Sorry. And I went to help. He's like, I got it. So, and then I'm sure they told you, but you'll sit on the far side. Okay. Some of the big questions.
That was very well done.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Test.
There we go. Thank you very much, ma'am. Actually, one of the first questions that came up was what opportunities exist for CGOs to get more involved in recruiting? And you had just talked about the WARE program. Is that just limited to rated officers?
No,
or?
that is anyone, any rank, enlisted officer. We're working on Guard Reserve civilian. Civilian we're trying to get, because there were a number of civilians doing RAGBRAI, and so we're trying to figure out a way to do that. But active duty right now, I have the authority to sign off, and it's all ranks.
Wonderful. With that, it says, this question is from Flight 35. Have you seen a decrease in people applying for pilot slots in ROTC?
I am not over ROTC, but I will tell you one thing. The commissioning sources are scrapping for pilot slots. Everyone wants them. So I know there's this perception like people don't want to fly. I'll tell you that is most definitely not the case on OTS. I get far more highly qualified applicants than there's slots available. ROTC has more people who want to do it than they have slots available, and the Academy is fighting for every last slot. So we're not actually seeing that trend right now.
Wonderful. This question comes from Flight A08. How will active duty recruiters be incentivized to recruit for the Guard and Reserve?
Excellent question. We just put an incentive program into place starting FY20. So starting 1 October, we have a system where if you put, well, okay, it's not just a referral, okay? So I don't want people referring their unqualified leads, right? So if you refer someone that then assesses into the Guard or Reserve, you get bonus credit. And so our recruiters very much live by this credit, and they have a certain goal they have to get each month, but then anything bonus goes towards recognition programs, silver badge, gold badge, some of those things. And so we made it very specific that once someone assesses into the Guard or Reserve component, then we get bonus credit.
Thank you. A follow-on question for that is, because of the mentorship that you had alluded to during your presentation regarding recruiting every day in Starbucks, someone comes up and says, thank you for your service. If any one of us were to take someone and mentor them all the way up to the recruiting process, is there a way, like on the airforce.com website, to get them in touch with a recruiter to say, hey, this is someone that's primed up and ready to go?
Absolutely. So Air Force, I thought you were going to ask for credit for everyone else. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Can we get paid for that?
The Army's pursuing that right now, so we'll see how that goes. But yes, airforce.com, if you go on there, there is a find a recruiter, and there's actually, I forget if it's join us or something. There's some link that you click and find a recruiter. And so I've ops tested a couple times because I'm a very much trust but verify person, or you can, say St. Louis, show me state, whatever the case may be. But I definitely try it periodically to make sure the system works. I try to get other people to do it because they'll recognize my name if I put my name in. But yeah, so there's that. And then we're also developing an app, Aim High app. And I'm testing it out with a young lady who's about to graduate from college who wants to go TS. So I'm testing it out with her, and I sent her a link to it. And the app, it links into airforce.com, but links into a lot of other things too. And so we're trying to make it more, 21st century. So we're working on it.
Moving into the 21st century, this question comes from Flight 39. How do you make the Space Force more relevant and attractive to the current generation?
So one of the things we've found is while there's a complete lack of familiarity that there is a Space Force, there is an incredible amount of excitement related to space. And they've done a lot of, when I say they, we have market researches, and we also have a marketing company that we contract with, and we've had them go out and do a lot of surveys and engagement with young men and women. And they look for different groups, like people who are STEM focused, people who are not STEM focused. And what they found is overall there's a huge excitement for space. Now, one of the things that is interesting is the dynamics of internal messaging versus external messaging. So internal messaging, we all know that space is a warfighting domain, and it's something that must be protected, and we must have freedom of use for all of humanity in space. That doesn't resonate as well with the America's youth as the idea of exploring space and doing some of that final frontier and finding new things and exploring science and technology. And so we're very much focusing on that aspect when we want to draw people in to get interested. So we've got a number of commercials that we just got approval from the CSO. Who knows who the CSO is? John Raymond. Someone got it. Okay. So we now have two chiefs. There's one secretary, Secretary Barrett, two chiefs, CSAF and CSO, Chief Space Operations. Just so everyone's tracking. I'm sure you guys already learned that. But anyway, so we just got approval from CSO to move out on a couple of the commercial concepts, and they're very much in the idea of the excitement of exploring space and all the possibilities that space holds. And so one of them, I'll give you a preview, but they talk about the problems on this earth, and maybe you were put on this planet to find solutions to those problems, and maybe your purpose on this planet is not on this planet. And they talk about the Space Force and getting people interested. Preview, it'll go much better when it's in a commercial.
Regarding the commercials, so that's a traditional way of method in recruiting, such as like billboards or television. But actually this past year, the Air Force had a big involvement with the Captain Marvel movie. Is there any strategic input to go into?
Marvel, 2 words, Marvel. Some of you saw the movie, I'm sure.
But in the future, we actually had an elective. In the future, we actually have an elective here. It's China's influence in Hollywood and how China is limiting some of the movies that American movies are allowed into the country. And some movies like Top Gun are removing pro-American references and things like that. And so my question is there going to be a further Air Force or DoD engagement into big blockbuster Hollywood movies, or how do we see recruiting towards the next generation in that way?
Sure, and that's one of the funny things, because I say commercials. We make these commercials, but they're not necessarily on network television, and I catch a lot of spears. And so there's a lot of senior officers and retired officers going, well, I don't see commercials for Air Force, and I'm like, sir, you're not our target demographic. Sorry, but love you and love the service, but you're not our target demographic. And our target demographic's not hanging out on the networks. They're doing streaming video. They're doing Hulu. They're doing all kinds of crazy things, esports. I mean, you name it, things I would have gone, that's really interesting. Not know that I'd do that, but that's where our target demographic is, and so that's where we go. In terms of partnering with Hollywood, that's that idea of us being willing to help them, because the Captain Marvel team came to the Air Force and said, hey, we're developing this character. It's a female fighter pilot. We're wondering if we could talk to someone. And so we love that, we Air Force, because then we can be accurate in the portrayal. And the misperceptions that people have are pretty surprising. Like, they really think we'll walk into an office and we just shout at one another. You know, there's just this stereotype. And so I remember meeting with the producer and the directors of Captain Marvel, and they're like, you are nothing like we expected. And so I guess, again, the stereotype that I was going to be very abrasive, aggressive, arrogant, and I was like, oh, no, I'll be very nice on the ground. I was like, up there, whole different story. And so we were working, I was actually on the set yesterday of one of the Marvel movies that they're filming at Dobbins right now, Air Reserve Base. Oh my gosh, I get all these mixed up. Winter Soldier and Falcon. Okay. So a movie they're doing. So we definitely try to do it. Now, this is very much Hollywood coming up with a movie and us consulting, because it is so cost prohibitive, the thought of actually trying to do one. And so what we do is we capitalize on different characters, and we'll pitch ideas that they might pick up and run with, but we do not have the capacity to actually develop any.
Got it. Actually, this question comes from Flight 17. There has been a long-term negative stigma against recruiting services. What actions are being taken to change that?
Okay, so I would love, that's the thing, is it's not interactive. I'd love to know what the negative stigma is.
Anyone from Flight 17?
Liars. Okay, so that's, yeah, there is a lot of misperception. And so, so much of it is second and third hand that it makes it really hard. And so we're working very hard to get our recruiters to think in that total force mindset. So incentivizing and things like that helps quite a bit, because you hear all the stories, and the problem is with some of the stories, it's sometimes partially true, you know. So I got a ranting email. Everyone has my email and phone number now, which is great. But I welcome all the feedback, because I can't address any issues until I hear about what the problem is. And so this one in particular was this ranting email about recruiters. They're pulling this bait and switch, and they're lying and this and that, and, you know, should have gotten a pilot slot, trying to get a pilot slot. It's very, very, very competitive on the OTS side to get a pilot slot. And so, you know, and no pilot slots were given out. And so this ranting and raving email came in. It came in through SES's down on me pretty hard. I'm like, I'll go look at it. So it was partially true. The person was not selected for pilot training. That's true. He was selected for a different rated career field. But he wasn't that competitive, not in comparison to all the other records. And so I laid out like the averages, you know, his scores by what the average pilot select score was, laid out all the information, and, you know, said, quite honestly, if he doesn't want to join in this other AFSC, he certainly doesn't have to. No harm, no foul, he can apply in the future. Now realize the rated slots on OTS are going down, down, down. So I had far more last year than I have this year. And so his odds probably aren't going up with this, but again, it's the communication piece, and a lot of times you get partial truths. And I get a lot of partial truths in terms of, well, like, Johnny can't join just because he has a $2,500 loan and 5 cavities. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Let me look into that. While those 2 facts are true about Johnny, there's a whole lot more about Johnny that Johnny hasn't shared with his parents or anyone else. But whether it's medical record, criminal record, we see all of that. I can't share any of it, and I'll say, well, there's more to the story, and Johnny's parents probably need to sit down and talk to Johnny and ask what the rest of the story is. But we take the spears, because they're like, this recruiter's doing this recruiter did that. So we're trying very hard to, it's a communication, and it's tough, but our recruiters are undermanned, under a lot of pressure, and so anything you guys can do to help, you know, send potential applicants their way, you know, talented youth their way, we'd appreciate it.
What is the most difficult part of your job?
I would say probably just manning and funding. You know, I always get told, don't say it's manning or funding. So it is challenging because we're a very, very small staff. and we're outgunned by all of the services. You know, I pointed out the Army numbers, but Marines have far more recruiters than us. Navy has far more recruiters. So we're very, very lean. And the problem, one of the problems is the fact that there's a lack of familiarity with recruiting. I am case in point. How many of you, and I know all the OTS grads will raise their hand, but I want everyone here, how many people have met a recruiter before? Show of hands. Okay, more than I expected. The first time I met a recruiter, I was a one-star general. Just never met one. I was an ROTC type. I wandered into ROTC unit on my own and just said, I want to be a pilot. The only reason I met that recruiter is because he was assigned to the Thunderbirds, and that was one of the units within the 57th Wing, but I had never met one. And so I was very, very unfamiliar with recruiting and with recruiters. So.
Yes, ma'am. We have time for one final question, and this comes from Flight 41. As one of very few female general officers and even fewer female weapons officers, how do you suggest recruiting young females?
I believe in the power of seeing someone, which is why I want all of you to go back to your high schools and go talk, because we disappear and you don't see what happens, but when you go back and you have so much credibility at your own high school, because I remember, you know, like Jeannie, like all the silly stuff I did as a high school student, but you go, oh my gosh, and now look at all the things she's been able to achieve because of joining the Air Force. And so that power of seeing someone is very, very important. The idea, if you can see it, you can be it. And I had a case in point, one of my many trips back to my high school, they've kept track of me. I was back talking, and a young lady I've yet to meet, who was a year behind my niece. And so she saw me talk a couple times, and normally you have no idea the impact you have, but because this girl was so cool, young lady was so cool, is why I know, because she was valedictorian and got appointments to all 3 service academies. That's pretty legit. And they did a little news article on her, like, which one are you going to choose and why? And she chose the Air Force Academy and wanted to be a fighter pilot because of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I could not have been that interesting. But it was the power of the image. Like she saw, I had graduated from that same high school. I had gone on to do this. This was an opportunity and a path available to her. And so she's now a senior at the Air Force Academy and just went to pilots. She got her pilot slot, which is awesome. I haven't met her yet. I've been trying to, but haven't been able to time it out yet. But again, you have in most cases, you have no idea the impact you have. But seeing someone who has done it is very powerful to help people believe that they could do it.
And what are some of the ways that they can help see or to show?
The big one is to go out and engage and be visible. And so I go talk at everything. It's pretty funny because a request came in a while ago for me to go be the military ball speaker at Seguin, Texas High School Navy Junior ROTC Military Ball. And everyone's like, ma'am, you've got a lot of demands. This is, Navy Junior ROTC. I'm like, no. Let's see if we can make it work. Let's see if we can make it work in my schedule. And it was kind of crazy, and we had to say, hey, have a backup, because this was right around the time we were filming the commercial Edwards. But sure enough, I flew in that morning, and then our daughter, I love bringing our kids stuff when I can, so I brought our daughter, who was in 8th grade at the time, with me, and we went to Seguin, Texas, and went and spoke at the Naval Junior ROTC Military Ball, okay? It was great, because again, it's that engagement, and who knows, you spark an idea with a young man or woman, or parents. That's the other thing, is the parents. The fact that the majority of parents wouldn't recommend their children for service, that's so disheartening, and it's because they don't know us. And so one of the things we do is we'll do like these educator and influencer tours, where we'll sometimes bring them to San Antonio and tell them about the Air Force and all the opportunities. But sometimes we're doing it at local bases. And I went to the one at Beale. They brought in local teachers, coaches, counselors, and told them about the Air Force and all the opportunities. And this one lady, she was so funny, because after I talked, I was taking questions and answers, and she was like, I just got to tell you, she's like, I am so relieved. And I said, okay, why? And she said, well, I'm not only a counselor, she goes, I'm a parent. And my son is about to join the Air Force. He's about to go to BMT. And she goes, we came over from Kenya, and we have a community of people all over the United States, and everyone has been so upset. They have been saying prayers for us, and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And she goes, they are so wrong. She goes, my son is going to have so many opportunities because he's joining the Air Force. And I said, you are absolutely right, ma'am. And it's that, again, the misperceptions and the misunderstanding. So anytime we can engage, at any level. It's goodness for the enterprise because it makes our team stronger.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have any closing remarks for us today?
I just want to thank all of you. Okay, we have an all-volunteer force, and each and every one of us in here chose to serve in some capacity, to be part of our team. And I want to thank you because you make our Air Force stronger. And thank your families, because while all of us sign up, the family serves, and keep them as part of it because they are part of this adventure. Our kids are 9th grade and 7th grade, and they love this Air Force adventure that we're on. But if we didn't include them every step of the way, I don't know that they would. But as many times as they'd move, you'd think they'd be done. No, they have no intention of doing anything other than this Air Force life because they love it. So thank them, because not all kids are thrilled about those moves. and so thank them for being part of this Air Force journey.
Wonderful.
And thank you for going out and recruiting. Carry on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.